All right, welcome everybody to the May version of the McKinney Amateur Radio Club. We're going to call this meeting to order. And for those of you who have not signed in on a sign-in sheet or have a real problem signing in, you can use your smartphone with the email link that was emailed to you about the meeting. You can click on that to self-register. It's going to prompt you for a code. The code is Bravo Radio or Romeo, depending on your flavor of phonetics. And I put it up there again just to make sure it sinks in. It'll be there again later on, just for the subliminal effect. Let's go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all could stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so I want to officially, my name's Dave Piekarski, by the way, K5EEN. I'm the president of the club. Want to welcome everybody, both members and guests. Do we have any guests here tonight? If so, just kind of raise your hand so we can so we can see who you are. No? Oh, good. That joke didn't offend anybody then. Do we have anybody that got any that's received a new call sign of late? Any license upgrades? Oh, wow. Any new licensees? No. Okay. We did get a report from our VE team leader this past session. He had 2 folks show up to test. They both tested for general, and they both passed. I had him check to see if they were, either one of them were club members, and they weren't, so they're not here tonight. But he also did mention that both of them tested for extra as well and didn't make it. Thanks, Ron. Really appreciate all the work that you do. And for those who may not have seen it in the newsletter, in appreciation for all the work that Ron has done, I have appointed him to be our new communications director. So, as happens with that. Heck, we'll triple it, Sid. So. All right, next topic, field day. I'm going to let Mr. Mike Fluchet talk to us.
It's almost here. Can you believe it? About 6-7 weeks away for field day. Yeah, and summer's here too, right? It just happened last week. Yeah, it turned into the 90s. Hey, go ahead and next one. That's all right. Irwin Park, Outback Pavilion. So it's the furthest in the Outback Pavilion. Beautiful view to the northeast from the pavilion. There are trees around the other side, but beautiful view up there. I think you can see Buc-ee's from there, but it's really good. The address is 4300 County Road 1006. It's in the city limits of McKinney, so it's close. We had plenty of room for 3 towers. So that's what we're planning on this year's 3 towers with the 20 meter, the 15 meter, and the 3rd tower with the 10 and hopefully 6 meter antennas across from each other, so we can add those bands. And as you can see, it's fewer trees close to the pavilion, so we may need some little help with some of those pop-up covers. I got one. I think Roy's got some he's bringing, so we'll get that. But it'll be good. It'll be good. It's June. How hot could it be? Go ahead. Go ahead. All right. The next big thing before is we're going to do our simulation exercise on May 27th. So coming up on Memorial Day weekend here. We're going to try to go. I didn't reserve the pavilion, but I'm thinking that time in the morning it should be empty. So we're going to try it at the Hilltop Pavilion. If that's if somebody's there, there's other places there. So just look for cars with antennas. Kind of like any other ham get together. Cars with antennas tells you you're there. We're going to talk about what is field day, how to participate. We're going to talk about making contacts, and then we're going to practice some. So bring in an HT if you have one, a VHF HT. We'll get on the simplex frequency, the one that's used on the Monday night nets, and we'll make some contacts back and forth and practice that. Also, Dave has delivered one of the kits, the Go kits that we have that we'll use on field day to me, and we'll have that set up, and we'll see if we can get on HF, maybe hunt some POTA stations or whatever contest is going on that weekend. Every weekend, the last few weekends, has been a lot of contests. I tried to hit Saturday or Sunday, whatever day it was this weekend, and there was 3 or 4 different QSO state parties or 7 area party, Northeast, a New England party going on. There was a lot of traffic, but propagation wasn't good last weekend, so hopefully that'll change. But we'll get out there and have some fun. We're going to start about 9 a.m. or whenever you guys roll in from breakfast, okay? Because I know you guys have breakfast first. And get all that out of you. Get your coffee drank, get all the stories told again, and then we'll have some fun at the exercise. All right. And last thing tonight, next month, we're going to talk a lot more about field day, but next month, go ahead, Dave. The first order of t-shirts are in. I've delivered a bunch of them. Jerry's got hers. Larry's got his. They'll be modeling after the meeting. They're beautiful. They're blue. But if you ordered one, see me. If you haven't got it yet, Roy's going to model his too. If you haven't had an opportunity to order a t-shirt, I'm taking orders, and I'll probably order tonight, the next couple of breakfasts, and then go ahead and put that order in. I'm trying to get, I went ahead and did an order one. The shipping wasn't that much, so that was good. And I wanted to get in before they start running out of the more popular sizes. And you'll know what that is if you look around the room. So, but see me after the presentation, after the meeting, so we don't disturb the meeting. We'll order more. If you've already ordered one, I've got those delivered tonight. Field day, 6-7 weeks away. Start thinking, if there's any food allergies, any food that we can't have there, please let us know. Lance needs to know. And if you still want to make suggestions on food, let us know. And next month, we'll talk about more about equipment we need, what is field day, and kind of get all that through. All right. Thank y'all.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Really appreciate all the work that you're putting in. Next, we have Andy Barnes wants to talk to us about the Smiles charity concert that's coming up on Memorial Day weekend. Memorial Day is a busy, busy weekend for us here in the MARC.
So after going out and doing field day practice on Saturday, we will have Smiles Charity on Sunday, the 28th. While we get started here, everybody take out your smartphone. Go ahead and get your smartphones out and open up an email client and address an email to W5KZJ at ham, HAM, at gmail.com. In the, what's the next line? What do they call that? To the title, Smiles Charities. Put your call sign in the body, and I will get you signed up for Smiles. And do one of you guys have that video from Laura?
Hello, McKinney Amateur Radio Club. My name is Laura Lakey. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the event coordinator for Smiles Charity. And you all as a group have been huge volunteers for us for many, many years. We're hoping again this year that we'll have your support with the help in parking and getting veterans into our event venue. If you're not familiar with Smiles Charity, we build mortgage-free homes for wounded veterans and their families. And over the last few years, we've transitioned into paying off mortgages. So instead of helping one family, we are helping at least 2 families per year. So your help with this 100% volunteer run organization is huge. If you can help out, please speak to Andy. The event is Sunday, May 28th. The concert event begins at 5 o'clock, but we will start seating or bringing in cars around 3 p.m. And you would pretty much be done with your shift by 8 p.m. So again, we would love to have you here, and we look forward to seeing you all on the 28th.
It's amazing what you can do with an iPhone. Although we were standing out on top of the hill down on Gray Branch Road, which is where the event is, and you saw all those wildflowers that were behind her. Those are planted where we parked last year. So we've got a real challenge in the parking this year, and we can use all the help we can get. I heard my email client ding a couple of times, but if you would prefer not to do that, I've got sign-up sheets that I'll be more than happy to come around with. May come around during the break with them so that you can get signed up. We'll pass them around and do that as well. So please come out and help, and it's well worth it. What you will need is a safety vest, a handheld radio. We will operate on 146.54, which is the same frequency that we normally run the simplex net on. And we'll run that. We'll be assisting the McKinney police officers as we have in the past, as well as they have assisted us. We had one guy that just was not going to park where I told him to, or where I asked him to. Then I told him that he couldn't park there. The McKinney officer was sitting across the parking lot and saw it. He waited for the guy to get out of his car, walked almost halfway to the gate to get in, got out of his car and told him, "Go move your car. He told you to." So we do have the backing of the police department. So that's the way. Everybody, please come out and help. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks a lot, Andy. Come on. All right. You can't leave yet because I got a couple things to say before we go to the break. Number one, support Smiles Charity. It's a really great cause. And like Andy said, it's not a huge amount of effort, and you get to see a free concert, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so there's free music and everything involved. Yeah, and there's food. So, gee whiz, why wouldn't you want that? Also wanted to say one more time, we were an estate of a silent key, W5RBO, donated, golly, got to be at least 15 boxes of magazines. So I've got some samples up here of the types of magazines that I have in my shop right now. If you want to come up, take a look. If you guys want any of these, let me know. I will bring them to you. Don't forget, 50/50 tickets are for sale up here. Those of club members, if you don't have a blue ticket for the door prize, make sure you drop by up here and talk to Sid as well. He'll get you set up with a door prize. That's better. All right. So it's time for our presentation. John, thank you for hanging out while we took care of the mundane business of running a club. But tonight we've got with us John Kruk, N9 UPC. He is a national sales manager for Yeasu USA. Your Vice President, Larry Land, arranged for all of this. And John, thank you so much for joining us. Look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure. Technology some days. So thank you very much for allowing me to come on to your meeting here. Larry did reach out to me and he thought it'd be kind of good to do the presentation. So yes, I am John, AKA the Yeasu guy, AKA the annoying guy. probably some other terms and stuff that people use, which we won't repeat here. But what we're going to talk tonight is we're going to talk a little bit about Yeasu products, that kind of thing, where we're at. We've been obviously quite busy over the past couple of years in regards to our product line, even during the whole COVID thing. And a lot of people aren't actually aware where we're at, where we've kind of come from, and where we're kind of continuing to kind of progress in there. So I do have a little bit of a presentation, but I think one of the biggest things I like to do in these presentations is to leave enough time for Q&A at the end. So there will be some time to do some kind of questions here, but if people just want to hold on to them, and we can do that. So let me actually pull this up here. All right, let me get back over to our Zoom meeting here, and I will share my screen, and then we should be good to go here. All righty, there we go. So first of all, once again, thanks for letting me come into your group here. Kind of was talking to Larry a little bit earlier today on the phone. Actually, this is kind of the end of our kind of the second busiest part of the year. Usually kind of from about September to or October of the previous year, all the way up through about May of the following year, we usually do a lot of online presentations to be able to talk to different people, as well as we do try to also offer a lot of technical support. I do a lot of presentations to do or kind of give ideas on people on troubleshooting aspects, connecting aspects of the radios, those kind of things. Even though it does say national sales manager, I kind of feel like I'm more of a little bit of a jack of all trades and kind of within the Yeasu world there. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of nice. It's also kind of a little break from the normal, hey, you got to sit and do the office work. I am a true 9-lander call. So a little bit about myself. So 9-lander call, I am located in Wisconsin. I do not live in California, did not want to move to California. I've been offered numerous times by the company. I said, nope, I was actually born and raised in the Midwest here in Wisconsin. So that's where I live. Before I joined Yeasu, actually in 2017, I actually was on the public safety side of things. So I started when I was young in public safety on their police, fire, and EMS, where I was living at the time. There was no full-time fire, no full-time EMS, but law enforcement was big. And slowly what I realized in law enforcement and the stuff that I like to do, I quickly found out that I wanted to change my my sidearm or my handgun, I should say, for a soldering gun. And I went more to the technical side, did more of the dispatching, more of the radio tech stuff, was a supervisor in our comm center for a while. And then finally I got to the point where I said, you know what? I'm actually going to get back out and get into the radio side of things. So I had done that for a few years. Well, actually, I had done that for about 7 years, really. Then I went back into dispatching a little bit on there. And then finally I said, you know what, I'm getting back out of it and I want to stay on the radio side. It was finally in 2017, then the vice president of the company, Dennis Matzenbacher, K7BV, went along and reached out to me because he saw I was playing with Fusion because it had come out about 4 years prior. And he said, hey, kid, you seem to know a lot about Fusion and this and this. And I said, well, yeah, because I'm familiar with P25, all that jazz. And he said, hey, would you be interested in coming to work for Yeasu? And my first question to him is, I said, will I have to get called out at like 3 a.m. anymore for any sort of technical troubleshooting calls for like stupid things, like somehow a dispatcher at 3 a.m. cuts their microphone cord completely in half? He said, no, you won't. And I said, okay, I'm sold. So that's how I started out with Yeasu on there. But the reason I bring it up is because I've done a lot of the side, especially on the digital side of things, which is kind of where I kind of reside. But also too is I am into HF and I'm a big MCOM guy, big Aries Races. I'm the one of the in the state of Wisconsin for our Aries Races organization at a statewide level. I am one of the district emergency coordinators for our West Central region. So Aries Races MCOM kind of is deep in me, as well as those emergency communications. Plus also still I'm a paramedic. So with that, what we tell people is we want to say welcome to the Yeasu family. And the reason we say part of the Yeasu family is because if you ever purchased any of our radios, you are part of our family. You are. Even if you've bought in one of our, the FT65 or the FT4 simple handheld, or you've bought the top of the line HF radio, you're all part of our Yeasu family. And what's kind of nice is to see where Yeasu started from. So this man here, right? This man right in this picture here, his name was Sako Hasegawa. His call sign was JA1MP. And literally Yeasu can almost be said as kind of like a rags to riches stories, because that picture is what you see is their house where Mr. Hasagawa started his family, raised his family, and then started Yeasu. He built a transceiver, and then the Yeasu company just grew from there, all the way back in 1956. Now, since that time, Yeasu has expanded. There is Yeasu Munsen, which is based out of Japan, which is kind of that whole global office kind of corporation there. And then it breaks down into other little kind of parts around the world. So Yeasu USA, which I work for, we're based out of Cypress, California, but we are part of that family. There's a Yeasu UK, which is obviously based out of the United Kingdom. Same kind of thing there. We are all one giant family with Yeasu. And it's great because we can help and really get specialized. Like in our office in the USA, we actually end up taking care of North America area and South America also too. Yeasu UK takes part of the UK area, and then the majority of the countries around in the UK. And then there is the Asia Oceania kind of region, which the actual main company, Yeasu Munsen, out of Japan takes care of. So one company, three kind of general areas, but we all love our radios. Now, when we get into talking about our radios here, one of the things is you have to take a look at where we came from. So as you kind of see some of these radios that are coming up here, you're going to kind of see that these radios, if we were to draw out a timeline for argument's sake, where we just put a date from 1956 all the way up to today, you're going to see that on there, we'd be putting little dots or little pegs on there to go ahead and symbolize, hey, what were some significant parts of that timeline? And as you see there, we started out with the FR100B, then we went to the FTDX 400. Then we just kind of added on, the FT101 series, very popular, the FT107, our first solid state radio. And then of course, the one that a lot of people like is when we got into the FT1000, 2000 series of radios on there. Now, the reason I bring this up is because through the time in the history of Yeasu, we have concentrated on improving a radio and then continuing to expand to improve. Now, what I mean by that is that those pictures of those radios I just showed you all had some redeeming characteristics on there, where we worked hard to work and make sure that receiver was of the highest performance and quality that we can give it. Once we maxed out on per receiver performance, then we moved back over to the filtering aspect of things. Once we got done and maxed out on the filtering aspect of things, we went back over to the receiver. And we've gone back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, because instead of trying to just update everything and not knowing what was a success, we went along and said, let's do that in a way, in a fashion that's organized, that we know that we can bring the aspects of parts of the radio up to the highest potential standards and then continue to improve. To put it more into a time frame of us, was the last generation of the high quality HF receivers, non-SDR that is, was the 5000 to 3000 series. All righty. Those radios have just ended production within the last three years roughly on there. And then it has made way for our new SDR line of radios. As you can kind of go back and see with the FTDX 5000 series and HF, the FTDX 3000 series, we had done some things with the receivers. So we maxed out the receiver performance. We were already maxed out with the filter performance. And what ended up happening was it came time in our Yeasu product line to saying, how can we go up to the next level? And the next level was SDR, software-defined radios, or receivers in this case. And that's where we came out with our new radio out there, which was the FTDX 101 series. Now, that actually came out around 2019 is when it came out. And this radio was very popular, was amazing, has great receiver performance. And we actually came out with two versions of the radio. We came out with the FTDX 101D, and then we came out with the FTDX 101 MP. Now, there's a significance in the model number of the MP, and I kind of alluded to it earlier, where the founder of our company, Mr. Sako Hasagawa, he was JA1 MP. Now, that MP, when you see it on a radio, the MP series is the top of the line in that model line. Okay, so if something has an MP on there, you know that if you're buying, in this case, the FTDX 101, it is the top of the line. It has 200 watts, has many receivers, has a lot of the, what do you want to say, the bells and whistles or the add-ons that the D would require you to purchase. But that's when we hit the market with this one. And a lot of people were amazed, absolutely amazed at the receiver performance. The independent list of the Sherwood Report list went along and said, you know what? Hey, here's the deal. We studied this radio. We took a look at this radio. We found out it has the best receiver performance on the market there. And it was placed number 1 on the Sherwood Report list. And we were very happy about that. Now what ended up happening is that we realized that not everybody has the money, has the affordability, I guess you could say, to be purchasing the high-end FTDX 101. Or actually, like in my case, where I live in Wisconsin here, I live in a village, and I'm not too far from the Minneapolis-St. Paul area into Wisconsin. So with that being said, I don't have a lot of places for antennas. So it's kind of one of those deals where having the FTDX 101 is a great radio, and I've played with it, and I've used it. I've done videos on it and everything. But let's be honest. I can have the greatest of radios and I have the poorest of antennas, and my radio is not going to perform any good, right? It's all part of the antenna, is part of the key there. So I went along and I said, you know, man, I wish there was another radio that was like a step down that I could use and take. And in this case, that's when we released the FTDX 10. The FTDX 10 shares a lot of the same characteristics as the 101. However, it's a single receiver, more smaller, compact design. And the best part is you can actually take it in a mobile environment. And that is significant for this radio because now you have SDR technology at a lower and now more affordable price point that people can take and say, you know what? I don't want a 101. I can't afford a 101, but I could still enjoy the SDR receiver capabilities and the strengths that are in the 101 now in a smaller, more affordable package. And that's when the 10 came out. And if you take a look at the way we did our architecture, of our radios, you'll see that we did something different with SDR technology. And the best and amazing trait of SDR receivers is the worst and most horrible trait of SDR receivers. And that is they receive well. Now, when I say this in sometimes presentations, people are going to be like, well, wait a minute. Well, how can the best thing be the worst thing in there? Well, it's best because, right, we want a high quality receiver that can just pull stuff out of the mud. That's the great part about it. But then also too is that the receiver is going to pull everything in. So if you're not careful, that receiver is going to receive signals that are adjacent frequency to the signal you're operating on. And that could cause interference, especially you guys were talking about field day, multiple transmitters running, maybe radios similar or close in range to the frequency. Guess what? You're going to be severely impacted by the operation of those co-channel or adjacent channel frequencies on there. But if you take a look at it, what we did with our FTDX 10 in this case is we take that signal in, we pass it through bandpass filtering, we put it through an RF amp, we put it through a mixer, and then we employ roofing filters. And that's a key important part to the radio. We take and we put in roofing filters. Then we pass it over to the SDR or the FPGA there. And then from that point is there, we put it into the DSP and then we pull that signal out to you. However, in addition to that, one of the neat characteristics on the FTDX 10 and the FTDX 101 series is that we have the ability to have a monitor out or a DVI out is really what it is, that can go to a monitor that allows you to pull that signal directly off that FPGA. So not only do you have the ability to hear that signal, but now you have the ability to see on a larger display, if you want to hook it up to, you can actually see that, wait a minute, there's something right in the mud there. So now you have a visual and now you have an audio ability to really hone things in there. And that's where we came with that technology. But as time went on, and as a matter of fact, last September, we came out with the next part of the Yeasu product line for HF, which is the FT710 AESS. So once again, FT710 AESS, it is an HF radio. It does employ a SDR receiver, but key thing about this one, and the key thing about this one is it uses audio to pull in those weak signals. As compared to the FTDX10 and the 101 in using bandpass filters, roofing filters, everything like that. No, the FT710 here in this case uses audio and dithering. So if you actually take a look at it here, once again, we do have bandpass filters in the radios, but we don't have any roofing filters. But then that is going to go into the SDR block circuitry, which then goes into the FPGA. Now, what ends up happening is coming out of that FPGA, we take and we dither the signal. Now, if you go ahead online and take a look and research some about dithering a signal, you'll find out that it's basically the concept of saying, okay, I inject a signal that may not be the best reception of a transmission, or it may not be the best audio quality, but it goes through a receiver. And then what you're doing is you're taking that audio out of that receiver that's been cleaned up and you're re-injecting it into the receiver again in the effort to sort of double clean the signal, make it twice as efficient on there. Then it's put into a DSP block and then it comes out to your speakers on there. But with the FT710 AESS, we apply the audio acoustic sound system. And what that does is that says, you know what? Audio is made up of different levels, right? We have lower levels, we have higher levels, right? We have all those different audio levels. But what if we took a speaker system and we said, let's take on two separate speakers, and one speaker is going to be the low range and then the mid range. So like the low and the low mid range, right? Because we have low range, mid range, and high range. So we have low, then we take the lower part of the mid range, and then that other speaker, we're taking the high and then the higher part of the mid range. And what we're doing is we're taking it and sending it to the individual respective speakers. So instead of all that audio from lows to highs coming out one speaker, we divide that out. Now what you're doing then is you're able to take that audio level and you're able to adjust it between the two different speakers to accent the highs versus accenting the lows. And then you can turn the percentage of that speaker operation from 0 to 100%. And I will tell you through personal experience with my FT710 in the field, in the car, all righty, using an ATAS 120 antenna on top of my roof, right, on my vehicle, I am going ahead then and I am taking this and okay, it looks like I'm still there. Sorry, it looked like I bounced out there for a moment. I apologize. That's why I kind of jumped out of there for a moment. I thought I lost a connection there. But what we're doing then is we're taking and we're splitting that audio and balancing it out. And I'm listening to, now mind you, it's daytime, 40 meters and 20 meters. I'm listening to stations in Italy coming in. I'm barely hearing them above the mud, as I kind of call it there. And just adjusting that AESS, all of a sudden, the next thing I know is I'm getting signal and I'm getting that person to pop just kind of right out of nowhere because I was able to adjust and balance the audios. So pretty amazing radio in that regards. And that kind of tops out our Yeasu HF SDR line. Now, we don't just have those radios on there. We do have the FT891, which is a mobile HF plus 6 meter radio. And then we also have the FT991A, which is sort of like a shack in the box, non-SDR, but it does cover 160 meters. So HF plus 6 meters, plus 2 meters, and plus 70 centimeters. But now moving on from our HF side, let's move over to our VHF and UHF side, especially in the digital side. And as we date back until 2013, that's when this happened, where we introduced Fusion to the world. So what we did is with Fusion, it was a digital voice technology that we had been working on for a while. Now there are multiple digital voice modes that are out there. But one of the things that we wanted to concentrate on with Yeasu is that it had 3 core principles. And the first core principle was high quality digital voice. That's really what we wanted to do, high quality digital voice. If you did not have high quality digital voice, why would you use digital voice instead of just staying on analog? The second thing is that it had to be easy to use. We didn't want to load a person down with trying to understand, yeah, it's a digital mode and here's how it works, but programming a radio, I have to enter this code or set it up this way and this way and this way. And that we didn't want any of that. So we had to make it easy to use. And if you have a Fusion radio, you know that the first time you turn it on, you have to enter your call sign. Once your call sign's entered, all you simply have to do is push the mode button to switch between analog and digital. And then the final part that we had to go ahead and deal with it is to say we want it to be versatile and flexible in its operation. So versatility and flexibility. We want to have it so that people can use it in a way they want to and not have to rely on infrastructure, not have to rely on repeaters, not have to rely on internet connectivity to be able to use Fusion. They wanted us, we basically said we need the amateurs to be able to use it how they want to use it. Now, starting out with that high quality digital voice, what we looked at, and this is what's on the screen right now, is we have actually 3 modes for digital operation. The first one on your left at the screen is what we call the DN mode. And what we do is we take a normal 25 kilohertz bandwidth frequency, and what we're using is using only 12.5. So we're using half of the bandwidth on that frequency. But now we use a technology called C4FM and FDMA technology, which basically states, okay, when we're in digital, we have to determine how we're going to send the signal down the frequency. Do we send it like it's a road, or do we send it like it's a car parked on a road? And FDMA is frequency division multiple amps or access. And in this case, we said we're going to send that signal like it's down on a road. So on that left side, we take that 12.5 and we divided it in half again. And now we have 6.25 kilohertz pathways. We have one that is strictly for digital voice, and we have one that is data or forward air correction plus other data such as like GPS. When you key up a Fusion radio, if you have a GPS in that radio, will send that GPS data, the call sign data, everything there. So that is one of the ways that we divided it. And we have a lot of people use DN. That's what they know about Fusion radio. They don't know really any other mode on there. But there is another voice mode in there, which is called VW mode, which stands for voice wide mode. And what that is, instead of dividing that 12.5 into two 6.25s, we have that 12.5 and we leave it as that full 12.5 for voice. And then the final one on the right-hand side we have is what we call DW mode. And DW mode stands for digital wide or data wide on there. And what that means is we're sending just straight data down that 12.5 kilohertz bandwidth on there. So those are the 3 ways we handle and send that Fusion down the bandwidth. And that helps create that high quality digital voice. Now, on the screen here right now is our current Fusion product line. As you see, we have handhelds, the FT70, the FT5. We have mobiles out there. So the FDM 200, 300, and 500. The 500 was just released about 2 weeks ago now. We have the FT991A. We have the HRI 200. We have the DR2X. We have the IMRS board for the DR2X. And then we also have cables and connections that allow you to use your radio connected to the Wires X network, which I'll get to that in a minute. Let's see. Come here. All righty. So talking about some repeater operations, this is part of that flexibility and expansion on there. You can use our repeaters in a standalone mode. You can. You don't have to connect in the internet. You don't have to do anything. You put the repeater up and people can use it in FM or they can use it in digital. And even cooler, all of our repeaters are multi-mode, meaning you can have it set up to be analog and digital into the repeater, but fixed FM out, or analog and digital into the repeater and fixed digital out. But also our repeaters are also dual band. So therefore you could do VHF in, VHF out, UHF in, UHF out, or unidirectional crossband, meaning the repeater receives on UHF but transmits on VHF, or receives on VHF and transmits on UHF. But only goes one way. Doesn't go back and forth like a lot of people think crossbanding does. But as you see here, simple repeater operation is one form. Next one is simplex form, right? Simplex communication takes place in Fusion. Enter your frequency, hit that mode button, boom. You are talking in Yeasu System Fusion. Next one is the group monitoring mode, which is a feature a lot of people don't know about. This can be used directly as simplex, or it can be used to repeater. What this also does is it allows you to send packets or pings, as we kind of call them out there, little data bursts to other radios. And then when the radios hear one another, they show the data on the screen saying, hey, I'm in range of this radio here, so I could talk to that radio. And if the device that it's pinging with has GPS, and you have a radio capable of displaying GPS data, you can actually see how far they actually are away from one another. Best part about what GM is it can be used in multiple configurations. So you could have people in the same frequency just different tones, and you're not going to interfere one another using DGIDs. And DGIDs, for the most part, are sort of kind of like CTCSS tones, and we'll explain that in a little bit also too. Getting back to this, you have more options where now if you want to say, you know what, I want to connect my repeater to the internet, you can now connect your DR2X repeater to the HRI 200, and then that goes down the internet. What you're doing then is that you have users going into the repeater, and the repeater can be set up to either transmit locally in one mode and send the other mode down wires X. So for an example, if you only want digital going down wires X, you can have it set up that anytime anybody keys and talks on a repeater in digital mode, it repeats it locally, but then also sends it down wires X, and vice versa. Signal comes in from wires X, the repeater transmits in digital. Excuse me. But you can also have it set up that there's another local mode. So in this case, they don't have FM selected as that wires X mode. So if you're talking FM on the repeater, you're talking locally on there. So once again, versatility and flexibility in how the Fusion network can be set up. In addition, we also released, when the DR2X came out, we also released what we call IMRS technology. What that does is that allows you to connect repeaters together without the usage of the internet. So wires X requires an internet connection, but IMRS does not. And all you need for IMRS is the ability for the repeaters to talk to one another in with IP traffic. So you can put them on a mesh network. You can put them on an intranet. You can put them on a microwave network. Doesn't have to go out to the internet. They just communicate with one another. Once again, flexibility and versatility. Add that to the wires X component in it, like you see on the picture here. Now you've created a system of systems. Now with Yeasu System Fusion, the repeaters and wires X, you locally down there in Texas could go ahead and have a repeater group set up. And I could be all the way up here in Wisconsin and have a repeater group set up. And there could be some people over in California that have a repeater group that is all set up. And normally our day-to-day operation, we talk and we link through our repeaters and everything and talk to one another, not an issue. But then I could select it that the group of repeaters here in Wisconsin can connect to Texas, or they can connect to California, or they can connect directly to contact to Texas and California. And all that's going to come down is depending on how you have it set up, how you want your network set up. Once again, flexibility and versatility on there. Now, this is a kind of an example of IMRS, but also DGID. Now, DGID stands for Digital Group ID. And where that concept came from is looking at FM. So, right, we have FM repeaters, right? You guys do. Yeah, I heard you talk about a repeater. Everybody usually has what they call a CTCSS tone or DCS tone on the repeater. What that is it is a subaudible tone for analog transmissions that allow the repeater to only listen or wake up, or the other radio to listen or wake up when it hears that specific tone. If it doesn't hear that specific tone, or it hears the wrong tone, then the repeater or whatever is listening to that frequency is going to be like, I'm not going to listen to you. I don't know who you are. Okay. But here's the issue with digital. We're not dealing with sine waves. We're not dealing with analog transmissions. We're dealing with data transmissions. Datas are ones and zeros. You can't put an analog waveform into a one and a data transmission. You just can't. It doesn't happen. It doesn't work that way. So what DGID did is the DGID said, we're going to come up with a series of numbers. And the numbers start out 00, which means no DGID, and then go from 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 99. Now, what's going to happen is when you're using Yeasu System Fusion, you can set a DGID for transmit or receive, or transmit and receive, your combination. And now the other person on the other end of that transmission, if they don't have the correct DGID that you do, you're not going to hear them, just like it would happen with the CTCSS tone. So now going back to our screen presentation here, we see there's repeaters 1, 2, 3, and 4. They have DGIDs 1 on 1, 2 on 2, 3 on 3. Pretty self-explanatory there. But what ends up happening now is that when a user is going to come in and access that repeater, they need to use that specific DGID. But then also what that does is it allows the repeater to be connected with those DGIDs by the user selecting them. So in this case, we see repeater 1 going to repeater 2. That's the red line with DGID 10. So if a person's using repeater 1, they're talking on repeater 1, DJID 1, talkie, happy. They're not going out except on that repeater. Same thing on repeater number 2. They're talkie on DJID 2, not a problem. The minute someone on repeater 1 or 2 switches to DJID 10, the repeaters with the IMRS board connect and now are linked in digital voice. Same thing can happen with the bottom 2, repeater number 3, repeater number 4. Individually is 3 and 4. Link them together using DJID 20. And then now let's say repeater 1, 3, and 4 want to be linked together. Now someone uses DJID 30. Once again, flexibility, durability, versatility, all that kind of things in that concept of how Fusion is set up. And it allows you to determine what you want to do. Now, getting back to this concept, I talked about WiresX, right? WiresX is the usage of the internet with our WiresX software to use a radio to communicate out. Now, that could be communication locally, or it could be through a repeater, as you saw in that diagram. However, it's sending data to a device, and that device is transmitting that data, the Yeasu System Fusion data, over the air to something. But now, as I kind of gave that representation earlier of that system of systems, look at this diagram here on the far right side. Guys in Florida, right? He's talking on a handheld into his PDN node, which is a radios connected to a computer. The computer then is going out on a WiresX network. Now we just crossed over that dotted line on the picture. Now it's going to another node or user in California. And now it's broadcasting out that node via RF, but then it's also keying repeater C in that diagram, which is supposed to be an Anaheim repeater. And now that is keying up all the other repeaters that are linked together. So now here you have a guy sitting in Florida in his hotel room, wherever, talking on his handheld, talking to WiresX. That's going down, coming out another WiresX node that's connected and hits those repeaters. So now literally you can have someone in Long Beach, Newport, Anaheim, reaching and talking to those repeaters locally. All of them are connected together. So Long Beach is heard on Newport and then Anaheim and vice versa with all those combinations. But then also too, it's being heard by WiresX and it's traveling down the WiresX network to that user in Florida. How much more flexible and versatile can it be? It really cannot be any more than that. Talk about our new products. So we've had some new products come up through COVID. Right at the beginning of COVID, we had the FTDX 10 that actually came out. Since that whole time of COVID and everything that had been going on, we've come out with the FT 710 AESS. We came out with the FTM 300, the FTM 200, now the FTM 500, which we're going to go ahead and talk about, the FT5, the FTM 6000. So we've been releasing radios through this whole deal because we want to have change. We want to foster the change. We want to advance our product line on there. And then this is a picture of the FTM 500. It is our new mobile radio. It is our flagship mobile radio. And one of the things about the radio is the big size head that the radio has, but all the engineering and designing technology, best way to say it, into that radio to be able to use it in a mobile environment. It has a larger head. It has a touch screen. It has a layout of functions and knobs that you don't have to fiddle with, that you don't have to think about. That big knob right in the center there, that always adjusts the VFO or channel selection on the main band. The volume and squelch knobs on the left-hand side. Top is always going to be main, bottom is always going to be sub. Far right side, the top right is going to be that functionality button. And the bottom right is going to go ahead and be that sub dial on there. Once again, don't have to think about it. Don't have to take your eyes like, hey, okay, I'm driving here. I want to change it. Oh, and I turn all that. Guess what? You don't have to do that anymore because it's not going to happen with this radio. It really isn't. Now, there is a lot of information that is out there. There was some information that was posted out there, which when it first initially came, a lot of speculation and stuff like that on there. And no, it's people said that, hey, it's a radio that's going to be single sideband and HF and everything. And that is not correct. It is not an HF radio or anything. It is actually just C4 FM and FM, and it is dual band VHF, UHF. If you are into social media, we have some social media sites up there, Facebook and all those kind of things on there. And in addition, we do have our own YouTube channel which is Yeasu USA Official. And there it is right there. There's our social media stuff on there. Feel free to go ahead and look that stuff up. Also, go to, once again, your YouTube channel, Yeasu USA Official. We are doing videos. We are working on stuff right now about our products. We do education on there. We're not going to try to sell you the radio or anything. We want you to be able to go there, use it as a point of reference, point of videos on there, take a look at it and saying, oh yeah, okay, this is it, or this explains it better and stuff. FTM 500 is a great example. Lots of features on that radio that a lot of people have asked questions. We said, guys, wait, videos are coming, and we'll explain it. And the presentations we've done so far on the FTM 500, people have walked away from it and they said, I guess I never knew there was so much in that radio. I just took it for granted that, and we even had one person use the term, oh, it's like pig on a lipstick because you just updated your 300. No. It's day and night to the 300. It really is there. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. I will turn it back over to, I guess I'm not sure who's going to go ahead and pick it up exactly. Dave, maybe, I'm not sure. And then we'll do some questions on there. And Dave, I'll kind of let you kind of maybe MC it there so we can know there because I can't see your group.
No problem at all, John. Thanks. All right, questions. Ron, where did the name Yeasu come from?
All righty, that's a good question. I've been told 8 different places that it came from, but actually Yeasu is basically a name of like a suburb area that Saka Hasagawa grew up in. So, it's like a suburb of, I'll use Dallas down there, for example, they got suburbs down there, anything around there. So there's Tokyo, Japan, but the little suburbs are there. There's an area called Yeasu, and that's where it comes from.
Very good. Any other questions?
Manufacturing sites. How many manufacturing sites and where are they?
How many manufacturing sites do you guys have and where are they?
So that's kind of somewhat of a protected information, but we do have different facilities located in different countries. We do have some in Japan. We do have some in China. A lot of our manufacturing is actually in Japan, and stuff that might be outside of Japan and China. Our parts and stuff come from Japan for a lot of the main bodies of there. And then they all go back through Japan for quality assurance. What a lot of people will do is they'll say, I'm not going to buy a radio in China. And this is actually a big myth. The FCC forces us as manufacturers to say, when you put that final screw into that radio and you're going to attach the label has to state where the final screw was put in. So people will say, oh, well, some of your radios are made in China. No, they are assembled in China. But it's weird how the FCC has to do that, makes us required to do that. But once again, all of our stuff actually comes back through Japan, is quality controlled and tested there. And then they go ahead and are sent back over to the distribution area. So for the US market, it comes into our warehouse in Cyprus and then goes out from there in the North America area.
All right, sounds great. It would seem to me you'd just want to have the QA guys put in one screw. But
you would, and people said that, why don't you do that? And it's so weird how the world works, how you can't send an unfinished product that's a radio transmitter that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mike, you had a question. Uh-oh.
Hey, John, first off, thanks for being accessible. You're all over YouTube with all the YouTube guys. You're very informative and educational. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I've got an FT891. I love that radio. It's my POTA radio. It's very portable. The form factor is great. Do you see any future updates to that radio, maybe in that form factor? Anything bringing in some of the new technology, or maybe even a sound card or something like that we could use a little easier on digital modes?
So that's a good question. And what I would say is you probably are going to go ahead and see not necessarily an update to the radio, but more so maybe newer products coming. We are in research and development, and unfortunately we have to keep that very close to home to even, so it doesn't get out. If anybody's familiar with some of the VHF, UHF radios made by other Chinese companies, you'll see that in the past, that information is leaked out, and then there's radios that look exactly like ours. Well, hell, we're even tracing down one right now that people are actually making a radio that they're putting a sticker on there that actually says Yeasu, and it's for a model that was discontinued or ended production almost 10 years ago. But all of a sudden they're making this radio that, without us knowing what it is, we would say, oh my God, we're making radios of that model again. One of the things that come into the sound cards and stuff, if you take a look, the FT891 was released actually in 2017. And at that time, when the 891 was released, the only radio that we had really included with a full sound card that only needed a USB cable was the FT991. Now, the reason I bring it up and do that comparison is because when you put a sound card into a radio, especially back then, it would eat up a lot of resources and stuff like that on there. The 891 was in a heavy response to people who said they have the 857D, or I should say 857 series. They weren't using the VHF and the UHF side. They wanted a smaller form factor, but they didn't want their traditional 6-pin data cable interface on there. Every one of our radios that we've had, the HF radios, so the 101, the 10, the 710, now, and of course the 890, or excuse me, the 991, they do have built-in sound cards. So I think you'll see, at least in the base models, we will go ahead and continue to do the sound card built in there. Mobiles, once again, it comes down to real estate, and that's the really difficult part on there. However, I do tell people there are a lot of new products that are actually coming out. We don't test with them because if we were to test all the products for all the Yeasu radios that are made by third parties, we could have like 7 people working 365 days a year, and we still wouldn't get through hardly any of them. But there are certain products that are now released out through our authorized dealers that they have as third-party vendors and stuff like that, that do make the sound card interface a lot easier, especially on the 891.
Thank you very much.
All right, John. What do you want to know about his repair centers? Where do we send radios to get them fixed, John?
So if you are in the North America area, and I stress this, that it is a North America or a US based radio, you send it to our office in Cypress, California. If you go to our website, yeasu.com, and then you click on the contact us, you could see where our address is for sending the radios in for repair. And then if you want to, you can actually send an email to our customer service department and then kind of tell them, hey, I need a radio sent in. They'll tell you kind of the processes or the steps that you need to do to send it in for repair to us. All repairs are, once again, done in our facility in Cypress, depending on what's wrong with it and depending on if we could still support the radios. So for an example, we don't repair the FT1000, for an example, anymore, or the FT2000. We don't have the original Yeasu parts. We are a company that does not sub out parts either. I know we've had a few people that have said, well, hey, can I go ahead and send this in? You don't support it anymore, but can't you just go buy a resistor or something? And we don't do that, unfortunately, but it all goes through Cypress. With that being said, I stressed, if you heard, if it's a Yeasu USA based radio. A lot of people are going online right now and they're trying to buy the 891s, the 991s, which have become back ordered through this whole COVID thing. We were the only ones stocking shelves with radios for a while because we were lucky enough and we saw some writing on the wall of what was going to happen with COVID, and we made some quick decisions. But people are buying radios off of eBay or Amazon or Alibaba or whatever these different online places are. They're getting the radio sent to them and they're finding out that they are radios of a different region. So they have let's say Asia, Oceania, Japan based radio that they're using in the US here. And it's not the same frequency range. It's not the same power output level and all that stuff. And people want us to convert it, or people are buying it and saying, hey, I'm okay with using it, but if it breaks, they send it in to us. Once again, we're a manufacturer. We're bound by FCC rules and regulations. We cannot work on a non-type accepted radio. And then in that case, you have to send the radio back to the service center for the region that radio belongs to. So if you bought a radio off eBay from someone in Japan and it breaks, you have to send it back to Japan.
All right. Other questions? Yes, sir.
They stopped making the FTM 100 was such a popular radio.
The question is, why'd you stop making the FTM 400 when it was so doggone popular?
Components. It comes strictly down to components. What we do is that we do not run a radio into the ground. So we take a look at the future and availability of the components, and we factor that on the amount of radios that we have out in the market or have sold. And therefore, we say to be able to support these radios, we have to be able to make sure that we have enough of these components for X amount of time. We are the only company out there right now that when you buy a brand new radio from an authorized Yeasu dealer, we give you a standard 3-year warranty, 3 years right off the bat for the original owner. So that means that any radio purchased, and I think the last shipment of the 400s from our office went out to dealers in January. So let's just say, argument's sake, someone bought a radio on January 31st. That's the last FTM, brand new FTM 400. We have to be able to supply and repair that radio for whatever could go wrong with it, as long as it's a warranty thing, for 3 years from that date. So in order to make sure that we can meet these demands, to make sure that we can do this, we will end the production of a radio sooner than later to make sure that we can do it. Now, the FTM 400, I'll be honest with you, is getting very long in the tooth. The FTM 400 was released, actually, the D version was released in 2013 when Fusion was first introduced. And technically, the end of production with the last one to be shipped was in 2023 here. So that radio had been out for 10 years and had been actually through 2 revisions, because there was the D version and then the XD version. Yep. The other thing that comes in for us, which is very difficult for us to do, and if anybody's familiar with the FT 817 and 818, we as manufacturers, we can't just like, okay, here's the deal, we're running out of this component. And during COVID, this is when a lot of this happened, where we have manufacturer of components saying, okay, you buy A101 for your radios. That's chip number or part number A101. Right. Well, we don't have A101 anymore. We have B202. Oh, okay. Well, what does B202 do? Well, that's a replacement for A101. Okay. What does it do different? Nothing. Well, then why'd you replace it? Because we made the new version of it. Okay. So what really is the difference? Well, it costs more money. Okay. Thanks, guys. Right. So then we, as a manufacturer, we have to take a look at this and we say, okay, can we use that component and can we eat the cost on it? And we do try to. If you've noticed through the history of our products, you'll see there have been some different model number variations on their add-ons because we've changed a component or something in there. And then we've ate the cost on it. But example, the 818 and 817, we had to get a new TXCO for the 817 because the old one was, once again, done. Well, okay, fine, we could do that. Well, that kind of started to modify the radio, so we're not bad yet. But then the TXCO gave, because there was more stability, it gave us another watt of power out of the radio. Well, okay, cool. Well, because of another watt of power out of the radio, now we had to have a different battery. Well, that's no longer an 817. The FCC is saying that is a completely different radio because you have a significant change in there. So then we had to change model numbers, go back through type acceptings and everything on there. In the case of the 400 versus the 500 that replaced it, there were features in the 400, or excuse me, there were features not in the 400 that the new 200 and 300 lower tier models, if you really look at how they were designed in concept, had over the 400. So unfortunately, all good things need to come to an end. And we just said, you know what, let's not continue to rebuild off it. Let's go anew and then add what we need to in it and then put new components in there.
All right, good. Thanks a lot, John. But by the way, Donald, if you're looking for an FTM 400, I say if you want another one, I know Dan. I know Dan W5FRT has one for sale. So, all right. Any other questions? All right. Well, John, I think you ran us out of questions. We really appreciate your time. You were very thorough.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for spending your evening with us.
No problem. And of course, we always got to do our shameless plug. If anybody's coming to Hamvention, Xenia, Dayton, whatever we're going to call it this week here, make sure you stop on down by the Yeasu booth. If you are interested in Fusion, we do have the Yeasu System Fusion Forum. It's on Friday of Hamvention. I believe it's going to be at 3:00 this year. And we're going to be, it's going to be a good one this year. We have some new things planned and stuff, as well as some giveaways during the event. So hope to see people at Hamvention.
Thanks, John. And by the way, just so you know how invested we are in Yeasu, our clubs has 3 DR2X repeaters deployed. So
nice.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, John.
Right.
We're going to get on with finishing up our meeting. Feel free to hang out if you like. And thanks again.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, we have the obligatory reminders. Don't forget the MARC information net every Sunday night, 8:00. It's on the 2-meter repeater, 146.740. The Simplex net every Monday night. Andy mentioned our frequency a number of times, so thanks so much, at 146.54. Breakfast at Denny's on Saturday mornings. That's a pretty good gathering of folks. We get anywhere from about 15 to 25 people for breakfast on Saturday. Denny's treats us pretty darn good, so come on out, have a visit. We don't all get to talk to each other because with that many people, it's kind of tough, but groups kind of form, and it's a good breakfast. Can I have a motion to adjourn? N5YZ. Can I have a second? Ron? All in favor? Aye. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your attention. Thank you.